Okay everybody, welcome back to the channel. So this particular video we're going to take a look at the Titleist and more so the players section of their iron offering. So we're going to be testing all 7 irons, the T100, the T100S, the CB iron, and then also the blade, which is the MB iron. So we've got some subtle differences of loss we'll talk about. We're going to hit them, we're going to look at spin, control aspect to these irons and possibilities that you might be looking at blending sets, you know, combo sets, those sort of ideas. We'll discuss that. And obviously provide you my personal feedback of each of these irons. Okay, so as we know, there is some other options in the Titleist lineup. We've got T200, T300 and T400. I was going to do all of them, but I just didn't quite fancy hitting 7 different models and multiple shots with each one. I don't know if I've got enough energy to do that. So I'm going to split this into 2 videos. I'm going to focus on the forged section, the forged headed section in this video. Then obviously I think we'll do a separate one with the T2, the 300 and the 400 as a separate sort of video for more of that sort of, a little bit more that game improvement iron, non-forged head. So going to start off with the T100S. So the S basically stands for that slightly stronger loft. So it's the same as the T100, but these lofts are 2 degrees stronger than what we see in the standard T100. So I think this is a really good option because you've got that very much that player's look. It's a beautiful looking iron when you put that down by that golf ball. And this 7 iron is 32 degrees, so as I say, it's 2 degrees stronger. 34 is a normal T100 7 iron loft. So it just, for those players, maybe just want to see that little bit more distance, that little bit more ball speed. Maybe if they're a high spin of the golf ball, this might just help to get that spin down a little bit more. Gives you those sort of different options. So, but maybe just a little bit stronger we might sort of see, but we're still keeping those same looks that we get, or those classic looks of the T100. So let's get underway with this. Does sit beautiful down by the ball. Great shape head. Yeah, that's a nice opening shot with the T100S. So as we're going to see with this iron, you know, it's a forged head. It's a beautiful feeling golf club here. Maybe what you just see with TrackMan is the ball flight will just feel. I've got really strong left to right wind out here on the range, so the ball's going to move a little bit to that right, which you'll see it as it tracks, but then I've got it on normalised, so it'll predict it as if there's no wind, so then it just straightens it up when it finalises its flight. Yeah, so T100S, fully forged head. It's a great looking club, isn't it? You know, that polished finish on the back section, toe and heel, and then obviously the satin finish of the grooves does look very good down by that golf ball. Bit of tungsten involved in the head, so just helping a little bit more with that forgiveness, a little bit more pinpoint of that centre of gravity in the head. Got a really good sound to that, as you'd always expect from a Titleist iron, especially a forged iron. Yeah, it's a good ball flight. So as I say, this is 32 degrees of loss, which is 2 stronger than the T100. So we're probably going to expect a little bit more ball speed with this in relation to the one which obviously we're going to test next. Yeah, so see just that last one there, just that little bit of a heel contact on there could just sort of feel that, just get that feedback through the actual club itself. Just bear in mind, these are fitting irons that I'm using, so when you see the close-ups of them showing of the head, you'll see like a bit of a, on the T100 and the S, a little bit like of a lump of metal sort of on the back of the hose. Do ignore that. That's just a weighting system purely because of the fitting component head. So obviously when you purchase irons, you haven't got that lump of metal sort of sat on the back of the hosel. Yeah, and that feels really good. As I say, I think these are a popular option. A lot of golfers sort of tend just to want to get that little bit of ball speed, maybe just that little bit more distance, but they'll want that T100, they desire that. Maybe the ball striking's good enough to use this sort of club. You've got that little bit of forgiveness with a tungsten inside it, that little bit of cavity, that backup behind the iron. So it is a very, very popular option. Okay, let's move into the T100. Okay, so same shaft going now into the T100, so same spec, everything like that. And T100, so this is 34 degrees of loft. So as we've just mentioned before, it's 2 degrees weaker than what we've just hit. But really, when you look at the back of the head, it looks absolutely identical. Down by in that playing position, that golf ball, again, the shape of the head is absolutely identical to that S version. The only difference there is that 2 degrees of actual loft. So we probably expect maybe a little bit more spin, not quite as long hitting because of the loft, added loft to it. again, the sort of sound, the feel, the feedback is identical to what we've just hit with the S models. No difference of that sort of look, feel, sound of the golf club. Oh, that's a good strike. It's a pretty strong wind out there today. You just see that ball flight just move off to the right a little bit. That'll probably just be a little bit left of target generally. Oh no, it's pretty straight, that one. 122, good ball speed. Felt a little bit on the toe, yeah, fractionally. Again, getting that feedback through this type of iron. Pulls that spin a tiny bit there. So in terms of, just from what I was saying before about comboing, would you combo the T100S with a T100? Probably not, to be honest, because there's no real sort of advantage, you know, of putting either in the longer irons or the shorter irons, because they're both the same head size. They're both really offer that same level of forgiveness. The only difference is that 2 degrees loft. So you only got a stronger club in maybe obviously in the S against the T100. So there's probably no real maybe advantage of comboing these two models together. It's a little bit lower in that club face there, but it's flown up very nicely. Might just see that spin just pop up a bit with that particular strike. Yeah, a little bit. So carry 176. Okay, there's T100 hit. Let's move into the CB. Right, okay, so now switch the head off, the T100 off, and now got the 620 CB. So again, great looking iron, a little bit of cavity now, but we've just gone a little bit more squat in the head in comparison with that T100. So a little bit more shorter blade length from that heel to the toe, a little bit less offset there, but again, it's a very similar sort of shape. Beautiful medium sort of top line there, medium to maybe slim top line we'll call it, but definitely just more of a squat head, so a little bit less forgiving here. We haven't got tungsten in the head like we do with the T100. We've just got really that small cavity, so we're just maybe just losing a little bit of help on this type of iron. Again, this iron's probably maybe more aimed at that very good ball striker who just wants that little bit of help maybe on those miss hits. Again, the acoustics not changing there. It's still a very good sounding golf club. Feels great off the face. Again, we've forged. Okay, and what we've got here now is 35 degrees of loft. So we're pretty weak on these irons now. So 7-iron, 35 degrees of loft. You don't see many in that sort of loft now. So again, it's aimed more, maybe that player who really isn't looking for distance, but trying to get a little bit more consistency, control, playability, those sort of ideas. That's a good strike. That's, again, it's flying higher. We're going to expect to see that with the loft. Interesting to see what this, again, peaking out at. It might not actually be any height, it just looks to be climbing a little bit more to me. So it's spinning a little bit more there, just over that 6,000, 6,200. Yeah, see, that wasn't quite as good a strike. It was just a little bit low. Maybe just left that face a little bit open there. You sort of, again, you get that feedback. It hasn't done so bad there, actually. It was a little bit, didn't feel as good there. Just those subtleties of strike, you probably just feel it a little bit more in this type of head. It does look very good behind the ball, very clean look. If you just want that really classic, clean look behind the ball, then this is certainly an iron to have a little look at. So offerings for the CB iron is a 3-iron through to picture wedge. And just what I was saying before about the tungsten, there is actually some tungsten in the 3 and 4 iron, just in those long irons. Should probably just help a little bit with that launch, maybe in those sort of long irons where we lose that loft a little bit. Again, comboing wise, would you combo these with then maybe the T100? And I think yes, you would, because the 7-iron at 34 degrees, the 7-iron in the CB is 35. So there's only that 1 degree difference. So you could blend those quite easy. Maybe CB iron in the shorter irons, then the T100 with a bit more extra tungsten in those sort of longer irons. Again, that is a possibility. I think that obviously you just got a slightly different head size really as you work from that T100 to the CB. That's maybe something for you to look at. Do you actually see a huge difference of that head? Is the blade length more than anything really? The shaping of it is very, very similar to the T100. Ooh, just pulled that one a little bit. Strike was good. Just held onto that one a little bit longer there. Okay, so CB 620 CB iron. really good iron, a little bit more squat, just got to maybe aware of that, but if you're a good ball striker, feels fantastic, looks to be a little bit more control. Again, we'll have a little look at that in a little bit more detail at the end, but let's just, before we do that, we'll jump into the MB, the pure blade. Okay, so finally we're going to move into the beautiful blade, the MB Iron 620 MB from Titleist. So obviously what's changing here now is literally no help at all. It's just that beautiful blade, very simplistic on that back, as you always tend to see from that blade, just that little ridge running through the back of the golf club. Obviously the sole gets a lot thinner now, so a little bit more of that turf interaction, or helping that turf interaction getting in and out a little bit quicker, which tends those more skilled golfers tend to sort of like a little bit more. Again, impressions down by the ball, it's just a great looking club. It's a proper classic looking club. Very similar, again, blade length from that to that CB iron. Let me just get the two together. It looks to be very, very sort of similar. Get those heads down here and have a little look. Yeah, it is very similar on that blade length, maybe just a smidge thinner on that top edge. So might just look a little bit more sort of scary looking in a way. Again, obviously aimed at more of that real skill golf, for that very central, good consistent ball striker on this type of iron. Loft, again, 35 degrees of loft, so it's exactly the same lofting as the CB offering, available 3 iron through to wedge. That's a decent strike. I've got into that quite nicely there, just slightly up that left side. Not my much, but again, the sound, the feel, you know, it's sort of where probably where a lot of those irons are sitting. To be honest, there's not a lot of difference between that sound and feel through those clubs. Ooh, straight away that was a little bit in that heel. Very much felt that. That's where you're just not going to get any help with this type of iron. God, I did feel that. Tell you what, I wouldn't like to hit a 3 iron in this. It's could be quite a small appearance behind that ball. There's my little reaction to that little pushy heely one. So straight away there, just not quite as comfortable. See that spin dropping there with that slight pull, just shutting that club face down. You know, just not quite as comfortable with that, even though I play blades myself. I think I've just hit those other irons there, knowing that I had that little bit of forgiveness. Maybe just 2 bad swings for me. Got through that one, that's a better strike. Felt much better. Just got through that one a lot better as well. A little bit more committed to that shot. Yeah, nice numbers there. A little bit more spin. Again, it's a bit, that low heel. God, you feel that, you get that vibration up that club. So availability wise, again on these 3 to wedge, as I say, the lofting is exactly the same as the CB. So again, talking about comboing the clubs, these will be the perfect club to combo. The lofts are exactly the same. CB irons, maybe those longer irons, you know, where you transition from is up to you, whether that's you transition to a blade at the 5 iron upwards, or the 6 iron upwards, or 7 iron upwards. Obviously that's for you to sort of decide, but then maybe MBs in those shorter irons, just maybe a little bit more that sort of control, maybe that little bit more that feel possibly. But they're both very good and very similar looking irons, so you could combo those a little bit more, just that tiny bit of help in those long irons with the CB against the MB. But again, the looks, the feel, the sound, very similar through all of those irons I've actually hit there. So and it's a very good sounding golf club. Okay, right, there's some shots hit with the MB iron. Let's go and check the numbers out of all those irons we've hit. Okay, so let's have a look at the dispersion rings to start with. I think it's quite an interesting one. So you can see down the left hand side what irons are, or which colours are what. So we're obviously going back to the T100S was the white, which clearly was a longer, you know, it's the strongest loft out of all of those, and quite a nice tight dispersion on those shots. They were very sort of consistent, weren't they? Then moving into T100, you can see the yellow there, again shorter, 2 degrees weaker, again really quite nice, tight and consistent. And then as I've gone into more of the smaller irons, which is sort of very similar to what I play myself, I play a blade myself, the dispersion's got large ones. To be fair, I've got 2 pulls in there, the pull with the CB in the purple, the pull with the MB in that turquoise there. So obviously that's just pumped that that circle up a little bit bigger. So if you take those out, they're very, very similar, aren't they? But I think, you know, the T100 is just giving me a little bit more accuracy on that particular test. Granted, there's only 5 balls hit with each. And then if we have a look at the numbers, so I've compressed each of the 5 shots. So we've just got the averages just to get it all on one screen, so it's a little bit easier to view. So club head speed, you can see pretty much identical as we've gone through the whole test there, just in and around that sort of 88 mile an hour mark, as we sort of expect, typical for me. Ball speed wise, again, typical trend we're seeing is 1217.7 with the TS, obviously stronger club, stronger loft. We're going to get a little bit more ball speed. 120 with the T100, dropping to just short of 119, again with that little bit of 1 degree extra loft. And then you can see the MB, a little bit less ball speed, just got a couple of little miss hits in there which punish me a little bit more because we've not got the give behind the club head, or not got the forgiveness levels as much. So possibly just dropping that little bit of ball speed on those slight miss hits. Launch 18, just short of 17, just short of 18, just short of 17. As we can see, spin number, obviously the lower spin with the T100S as we expect, and a typical trend here as we've gone up through the club. So a little bit more loft, you can see 5.7 on average. CBI, and again had a pull in that, which has pulled that spin down, so that'll probably just be over 6,000 as an average if I take the pull out. And similar with the MBI, and probably a little bit higher than that, again if I took that little bit of that pull shot out. Obviously you can still have a look at the height differences there. So, you know, T100S has actually peaked pretty high, so a bit more ball speed with a bit of launch, has actually peaked it a little bit higher, which you maybe would sort of expect to be the other way around, you know, with the more lofted clubs peaking a little bit higher, but they get there in different ways, don't they? You know, with more spin, a little bit lower spin, a bit more ball speed, lower spin, peaks are high, a little bit less ball spin, more spin, just climbs and peaks it, doesn't it? So it's all a little bit different, but look at the land angles, very, very similar really, so there's a lot of control there coming into land. Right, okay everybody, so there we go. There's the sort of forged offerings from Titleist, all hit together. So T100S, slightly stronger lofted, T100, CB, and then the MB. So I say some comboed options to maybe take into account there. So if you're interested in looking at something like that, then you know those are options to work into the equation. Again, loads of shaft grip options, obviously line angles, everything like that. So as my message was, go and get fit yourselves, try these, maybe try the different models, see if you would combo them, or you just might play the same model right the way through the set. Post comments down below, let me know your thoughts. Are you comboing your set? What are you comboing? It might not be Titleist, but I'd love to hear what you've got in your bag, and the reasons why is always interesting to hear from you guys as golfers. So appreciate you watching the channel. If you enjoyed it, do hit that subscribe button. Follow me up on social media platforms, so Instagram and Twitter. The handles there are @MNGolfCoach, and hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.